Hello everyone, welcome back to Spectator Sports, where we cover sports from a spectator's point of view. Today, some breaking news broke from the Giants camp where they'll be releasing Daniel Jones after demoting him to the fourth string quarterback midweek. And we're going to break that all down for you. But before we get into the content, please do us a massive favor. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We dropped a full podcast recapping Week 11 in the NFL and the Sixers drama with our various clips here on YouTube as well as on TikTok. And if you want to get the full podcast on Spotify, feel free to do so. Links are in the description. And let's get into breaking down Daniel Jones' release of the New York Giants. Coming out of the bye week, Brian Daboll announced that the Giants will be benching Daniel Jones and starting Tommy DeVito. And in the process, the week started off with Daniel Jones taking the quarterback 3 reps, but then later being fully demoted to the fourth string quarterback, meaning he runs a scout team, and he was actually even running scout safety drills as a $40 million defensive back at this point. Now, this move mainly stems from a salary cap purpose where if Daniel Jones were to be injured at any point in this season, and if the injury was severe enough where he couldn't pass a physical next season after June 1st, that means that the New York Giants are on the hook for $23 million as an insurance policy in Daniel Jones' contract. And Friday morning, news broke that the Giants are going to be releasing Daniel Jones per his own request. Thursday, after practice, Daniel Jones got with the media and basically delivered a long statement, essentially saying his goodbyes to the Giants organization. And now he's free to find another team and start anew as he's trying to revive his career. And does this mean that this is the end for Daniel Jones as terms of an NFL quarterback? I don't think so. I mean, there's a real path for him to even be a starting quarterback, as the quarterback position, as we know in the NFL, is a revolving door and injuries happen all the time. And we've seen guys like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold take advantage of situations and revive their careers after getting off to slow starts or having it derailed due to random reasons, injuries, situation, whatever have you. So it's up to Daniel and his agent to take some time, figure out what the right situation is, and eventually he'll absolutely sign with the team in the next coming weeks. The reason why the Giants decided to do this is simply just, one, the salary cap purposes that I discussed, but also his play. His play as a $40 million quarterback and the potential franchise quarterback of the New York Giants has been disappointing. Since signing that deal, he hasn't passed for a touchdown pass at MetLife Stadium. And last year he was injured with a torn ACL, came back for the start of the season, and immediately struggled against the Minnesota Vikings, throwing a miserable pick 6 to Andrew Van Ginkel. Now, throughout the season, we knew that the Giants were bereft of weapons, except Malik Neighbors, and he's been great, Neighbors has, but we've seen Daniel Jones miss throws constantly, and that has been a trend throughout his entire career. And to piggyback on that, there are turnovers too, fumbles, interceptions. The bad plays continued 2 weeks ago with their game against the Carolina Panthers, who at the time were the worst team in the NFL, in Munich. And you saw Daniel Jones have a couple interceptions, and we did say that the turnovers weren't completely his fault, but the missed throws, I mean, there were certain times that Neighbors or whoever the pass catcher was wide open, and Daniel Jones just sails it into the first row. And simply, you cannot develop a team or build a team around a guy that just can't even make basic passes. That's really the reason why he was released, and that's really the reason why he was benched and eventually released this week by the Giants. Now, from an organizational standpoint for the Giants, they decided to go with Tommy DeVito, and this indicates that they're going full-on tank mode at this point. Tommy DeVito was a cultural sensation last year with his Italian heritage and roots, especially with the agent, but as a quarterback, he hasn't been the most productive in the NFL, but the Giants are going to need somebody to operate the offense for the remaining games in their schedule. And They're thinking that Drew Lock, their second string quarterback, would be operating that offense a little bit too well for their liking. There's a lot of prospects in the upcoming draft in 2025, Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, and the Giants at this point have to figure out who that next signal caller will be for their franchise moving forward, because they tried to make moves this offseason for a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels, but unfortunately due to a couple late wins in the season, their draft position out of their range to take one of these elite quarterbacks. And they made efforts to trade them, but they felt like they didn't want to ruin the future to grab one of these guys and just maybe hold out hope that Daniel Jones can turn it around. Well, that strategy didn't work at all, and I think from a general manager standpoint, Joe Schoen really shit the bed with this in the offseason of 2023. Now, we knew after Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley led the Giants to a postseason appearance, won a playoff game with the help of Brian Daboll, that the Giants were potentially a team that could be a playoff team for years to come. And they had an opportunity in that pivotal offseason to figure out how to use their assets, and they made the wrong decision. They give Daniel Jones a one-hit wonder, 4 years, $160 million at $40 million a year. And Saquon Barkley, the engine of the offense, they decide to franchise tag him. And then they play this game of chicken. He eventually signs an extension, and in the offseason of 2024, he doesn't elect to re-sign with the Giants after getting lowballed an offer from GM Joe Schoen, and goes down the New Jersey Turnpike to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, their hated rival. And in Hard Knocks, you saw that owner John Mara said that he would have a hard time sleeping at night if Saquon was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles and being productive there. Now, I haven't checked in with John Mara since, but I don't think he's been sleeping well since then, because we've seen Saquon. He's been the Offensive Player of the Year in the 2024 season. He has changed life in Philadelphia and given the Giants a first-hand look at what they could have had if they just decided to pay this man a mere $12.5 million instead of paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year. Going into this offseason, they do have some other things to figure out. Do they bring back Brian Daboll? Now, I think that would be in their best interest to bring back Brian Daboll, because he has shown that he can nurture quarterbacks. He's basically the guy that helped turn around Josh Allen's career. And look where Josh Allen is today after getting some tutelage from Brian Daboll under his offense in Buffalo. Well, let Brian Daboll handpick somebody in this draft. You are basically going to be within the top 3 picks. You can pick anyone who you want at that point, and figure out how to build around him with a different GM. Because if you think about how Joe Schoen has made attempts since being the Giants GM, he's whiffed on draft picks. Kayvon Thibodeau has been in and out of the lineup and has been a massive disappointment. Evan Neal has been a borderline all-time bust. In this offseason, letting Saquon Barkley walk, but then signing Drew Lock to $5.5 million not to play him, and that $5.5 million could have been used to bring back Saquon. Explain the logic there. Now, so like I've been saying, the Giants are a mess, but they can get themselves out of this mess if they make the right steps in this offseason. And we're going to wait and see how it unfolds. The Giants could win a couple games and be out of position to draft one of these quarterbacks. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, but they do have some steps to get out of this mess and figure themselves out for the future. But it remains to be seen, because since they won that Super Bowl 15 years ago almost, they have been incompetent ever since. I'm afraid that competency is going to come through that door anytime soon in New York.